history, whispers of secret gatherings, dark rituals, and powerful witches' covens have sent shivers down the spines of entire communities. But what if I told you some of these covens were real? In this video, we're uncovering the hidden stories of real witches' covens, from terrifying witch hunts of Germany to the eerie trials in England and beyond. These are the dark secrets they never wanted you to know about. Ready to dive into the chilling history of witches they tried to erase from the books? Watch on if you dare. Starting off today in our number 10 spot, we have the Coven of the Pappenheimer family. In the early 1600s, Germany was gripped by the terrifying witch hunts that swept across Europe, and one of the most chilling cases involved the Pappenheimer family. Accused of being part of a witches' coven, this family faced unspeakable horrors during the Bavarian witch trials. Tormented beyond imagination, they were forced to confess to outrageous crimes, including making pacts with the devil and practicing dark magic. Their public execution was as brutal as it was tragic, serving as a grim reminder of how easily fear and superstition can spiral out of control. The Pappenheimer family's fate is a haunting example of the hysteria that led to the deaths of hundreds of innocent people during this dark chapter in history. Can you imagine living in a time where even a whisper of suspicion could lead to such a gruesome end? In our number 9 spot today, we have the Pendle Witches. In 1612, a small village in Lancashire, England, became the setting for one of the most notorious witch trials in British history, the case of the Pendle Witches. 12 people, mostly women, were accused of being part of a witches' coven, practicing black magic, casting hexes, and consorting with dark forces. Their alleged crimes ranged from cursing livestock to causing death through sorcery. The trial was a spectacle of fear and superstition, and in the end, 10 of the accused were found guilty and hanged. The Pendle Witches' tale still sends shivers down the spine today, blending folklore with real historical events. How many innocent people were caught up in the frenzy of fear? The legend of the Pendle Witches endures, a chilling reminder of the dangers of paranoia and the dark fascination people have always had with the supernatural. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Salem Witch Coven. The Salem witch trials of 1692 stand as one of the darkest chapters in American history, where fear and paranoia gripped a small Puritan community in Massachusetts. Accusations of witchcraft spread like wildfire, with dozens of individuals, mainly women, suspected of forming secret covens and practicing devil worship. The idea of witches meeting in shadowy gatherings, casting spells, and consorting with Satan became a terrifying obsession. In the frenzy, 20 people were executed and many more were imprisoned, their lives shattered by false accusations. Strangely, there was never any real evidence of these supposed covens or dark rituals, but the fear was enough to destroy lives. The Salem witch trials remind us how dangerous unchecked hysteria can be, and they still haunt the imagination of generations who wonder what really drove the madness. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Witches of Abiquiú. In the 1760s, the remote village of Abiquiú, New Mexico, became the unlikely stage for a series of witch trials, where a group of indigenous women were accused of forming a witches' coven. These women, known for their deep understanding of local herbal remedies and healing practices, were suddenly cast in a much darker light. Their knowledge, rooted in indigenous American spirituality, clashed with the religious fervor of Spanish colonists who believed these women were practicing witchcraft. The trials painted their traditional healing techniques as malevolent acts tied to sorcery. These accusations weren't just about fear of magic, they reflected the tension between cultures, with indigenous traditions being misunderstood and demonized. Can you imagine how quickly fear and suspicion could twist something as benign as healing into a supposed act of dark magic? In our number 6 spot today, we have the Coven of Witches of Zugarramurdi. In 1610, the quiet town of Zugarramurdi in the Basque region of Spain became the epicenter of one of the most chilling witch hunts in Spanish history. These witches were accused of forming a large coven that gathered in nearby caves to conduct dark rituals and worship Satan himself. These caves, shrouded in mystery and superstition, were said to be the site of wild gatherings where witches flew through the night and made pacts with the devil. When the Spanish Inquisition caught wind of these rumors, an investigation was launched, leading to a brutal trial. Many of the accused women were executed or imprisoned, their alleged coven becoming the stuff of legend. Even today, the caves carry an eerie reputation, and the story of these women continues to haunt the region. Would you dare to visit a place said to be the meeting ground for witches centuries ago? These witches remain a symbol of how fear and folklore can turn an ordinary place into a site of supernatural dread. In 16th and 17th century Italy, the Benandanti were a mysterious group who claimed to use their powers for good, believing they were protectors who battled witches to defend their communities. They engaged in strange, trance-like rituals, even claiming to have out-of-body experiences where they fought evil forces in the spirit realm. While the Benandanti saw themselves as warriors against witchcraft, the Catholic Church viewed them with deep suspicion. Their unusual practices, instead of being celebrated, were seen as evidence of dark magic, leading to accusations that they were a part of a witch's coven. Several members were put on trial for witchcraft, their good intentions lost in the church's growing fear of anything supernatural. The story of the Benandanti shows just how easily the lines between good and evil could blur during times of superstition and fear. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Coven of Bideford. In 1682, the quiet town of Bideford in Devon, England, became the site of one of the last witch trials in the country. 3 women, Temperance Lloyd, Susanna Edwards, and Mary Trembles, were accused of forming a witches' coven and using their dark powers to bring illness and death to their community. Local suspicions, fueled by fear and superstition, quickly spiraled into accusations of black magic, and the 3 women found themselves on trial for their lives. Despite flimsy evidence, the women were convicted of witchcraft and hanged, becoming the last known people executed for witchcraft in England. Their case remains one of the few examples of a supposed coven being legally prosecuted in the country. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Torsåker witch trials. In 1675, the peaceful Swedish province of Angermanland became the site of one of the most brutal and widespread witch hunts in European history, the Torsåker witch trials. During this terrifying period, 71 people, both men and women, were accused of being part of a witches' coven and performing satanic rituals. The allegations centered on the belief that these witches were abducting children and taking them to the mythical island of Blackula, or Blue Hill, where they would supposedly serve the devil. The panic that followed led to the horrifying beheading and burning of the accused, turning the Torsåker trials into a very dark chapter of Swedish history. The sheer scale and savagery of the trials left a haunting legacy that still lingers today. In our number 2 spot today, we have the Würzburg and Bamberg witch trials. Between 1626 and 1631, the cities of Würzburg and Bamberg in the Holy Roman Empire became the epicenter of some of the most terrifying witch hunts in European history. During this period, over 1,000 people, including high-ranking officials, were accused of being a part of a witches' coven engaged in demonic rituals. The hysteria swept through the region like wildfire, with accusations flying and executions becoming almost routine. Political instability, religious conflict, and a fear of famine created the perfect storm for suspicion and panic. Entire families were caught in the crosshairs, leading to brutal executions by burning. The scale and savagery of the trials made them infamous examples of how fear of the supernatural can lead to mass persecution. This dark chapter in history reveals just how deep the paranoia ran, with no one safe from the flames of suspicion. And finally, rounding out our list in our number 1 spot, we have the Isobel Gowdie Coven. In 1662, Isobel Gowdie, a Scottish woman, delivered one of the most fantastical and detailed confessions of witchcraft in history, sparking intrigue and fear. Unlike many accused witches, her confessions were given voluntarily and without the use of torment, making her story even more unusual. Isobel claimed to be part of a witches' coven that met regularly to cast spells, shapeshift into animals, and even consort with the devil himself. She described flying on broomsticks and participating in wild supernatural rituals, painting a vivid picture of witchcraft that seemed straight out of folklore. What makes her case particularly strange is the sheer depth and imagination of her confessions, far beyond what many others accused of witchcraft ever described. Despite this, no record of Isobel's execution exists, leaving her fate a mystery. Can you think about how her words must have captivated and definitely terrified her audience at the same time? The tale of Isobel Gowdie remains one of the most fascinating windows into the eerie world of witch trials, where reality and superstition blurred in very haunting ways. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thanks so much for checking it out. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I will see you again soon. Bye!